Hey, Twisted listeners, I'm Cindy,
And I'm Diva.
and this is Twisted Listeners, a podcast about murder.
And lists.
And we missed last week because I didn't have time. I did not have time to record because I just worked too much. I'm really sorry. Sorry, guys. We missed you.
Crazy. Capitalism's got her down.
Yeah, it really did. Makes me sad, makes me bitter, makes me miss doing things I
Terrible.
love, like this podcast. But we're back and better than ever.
hmm
So I don't know. What are we doing? We're doing
False confessions.
false confessions. This was mine. I'm very excited about it.
It's a
You
good
can
topic.
tell because I couldn't even remember what it was. But no, I really am. And this story is one that I've always wanted to do, so I'm really excited to do it. So um what's new? Anything? What can we talk about?
mm. I don't know. We're so exciting, you guys. We're so thrilling. I'm on maternity leave still, so I've mostly been watching TV while my baby naps. He's been napping a lot.
That's nice.
Eating and napping. Yeah, so I'm living a pretty chill, non-capitalist life, actually.
I love that for you so
Um,
much. You're very European in your approach, which I
yeah,
love for you so much.
yeah. I got like 6 months. It's kick ass.
Yeah, it's
So
good. Have you been keeping up with the Ruby? Is it Ruby Frankie or Ruby Frank? I don't know how to say her name. Have you been keeping up with that at all?
I have not. I don't even know what you're talking
Oh
about.
my god, she's like this mom that apparently was like a super crazy religious zealot psycho and has been like beating, starving, and otherwise abusing her children, or at
Mm,
least two of them. And her thing is like they're demons and the devil had a bad day today because I fucking threw dirty water on my child and like shit like that. Like I
whoa.
yeah, like I pushed her into a pool and held her nose and like the devil got out of her, like crazy shit. They were like releasing her diary
Wow.
entries and they're all just like batshit.
Wow.
Mhm.
Why do people like to like torture, murder their kids? Like,
She didn't kill them, but they were
okay.
starving. Like her children were
Yeah.
starving. She has
Yeah.
6 kids. And the craziest thing is she's like a really popular blogger. It's like the Hart family. Do you guys I mean, I know you remember that one.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Ugh.
Obsessed with that case. It's
Yeah.
totally horrible and insane. Yeah.
This was headed that way, but somehow she got caught early. I honestly haven't had time to fully explore this case, but the little bit that I've heard about is fucking nuts. So, I want to call that out because
Okay.
kind of interesting. What else? Anything? Jesus, dude.
Um. This is not. I mean, it is true crime actually, but like not murder. But I got really obsessive into binge watching in one single day the entire Quiet on Set documentary on HBO. Have you watched this yet?
Oh,
About Nickelodeon?
no. No, but I think I told you when
Oh my god.
Josh Peck came in with some people for a tasting like not that long ago. Yeah. Not the bad guy,
Oh,
but like
from Drake and Josh,
yeah, from Drake and
the good
Josh.
one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So apparently he's getting hate because people don't realize that he's like not related to the abuser because they have the same last name. So
Yes.
it's like this
Right.
big
No
fucking thing.
relation. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Oh
I
my
feel bad
god.
for him,
Yeah.
but
But I'm like a hardcore 90s Nickelodeon like kid who I grew up watching all that and like I worshipped all those shows and so it was like really trippy to watch. That was
I
so wild.
I was too old. People are like Drake and
Yeah.
Josh, and I was like, I don't
No,
know
no,
what
I'm too young
that
for
is.
that. But the earlier wave of his shows, which is all that, that was what I watched. I was too old for Drake and Josh
Too old
by the
for Drake.
time that came
Okay,
out.
gotcha.
But I was the right age for the Amanda Show, and I was the right age for all that.
See, I had older brothers that made fun of me for liking anything, so I just became like a hater of all things by the time I was like
Mm.
10. So I was
I
far
mean,
too cool for any Nickelodeon
I
show.
maintain all that was pretty fucking funny. Like Keenan and Kel are very
No,
funny.
they are.
Like
They
they were,
are. Yeah.
yeah, they were incredible. And like Good Burger, and like that was all incredible. So like, there's really talented people in there. But like in hindsight, like breaking down some of the problematic sketches and things, I'm like, oh my god, like poor little Diva did not. I had no
Didn't
idea.
even
Like,
yeah, didn't even think
no,
about it. It's weird how
it's wild.
the grooming goes to the kids that are on set and it also like normalizes
Yeah,
shit for the watchers, which is like really for the
child
viewers, I
stars,
mean.
man. It's rough.
Dude, yeah. We got a friend that's a child star and like, woof, shit's rough. But I haven't watched it because
Yes.
it doesn't really apply to me. Like I don't really know anything about that world,
It's
but
riveting though.
is
It's like
that
shocking and riveting. Yeah, you'd still like it.
maybe I'll watch it. All right. But
It's intense.
okay. I mean, I
Okay.
like stuff like that, but anyway, let's get into our topic.
Yeah. Mine's beefy.
Okay.
I think I go first because this is your topic.
You do go
Um,
first. Yes.
yeah, so we're going to Iceland, and I'm really excited about that. I love Nordic things,
Nice.
as a part Norwegian Viking aficionado myself. So we're going to Reykjavik, Iceland.
Mhm.
And by the way, I'm obsessed with the Instagrammer or Facebook video guy, Greipur. Have you seen this guy? Greipur. I'm gonna send him a video of his to you, and you'll
Okay.
laugh. Anyways, it's an Icelandic dad who has these incredible, hilarious little parenting like reels. And it's like he's just walking through like the frozen tundra with his like toddler falling on his face behind him. It's really funny.
Okay. That
Um,
sounds kind of fun. I like that.
yeah, so I've been watching a lot of Icelandic content lately, so this was perfect. This is the Guðmundur and Geirfinnur case.
Okay.
I think I'm going to pronounce everything successfully to the best of my abilities here.
Good luck to you. I won't call you out
So
if you don't. So,
yeah, I watched a long documentary about it, so I think I'm gonna get it right. So
right.
this is 1974 in Reykjavik, and this is a wild as fuck case. I hope I don't talk a million years, but it's okay. This starts when 18-year-old laborer named Gudmundur Einarsson disappeared after walking basically a really short walk home from a dance hall in Reykjavik, kind of like a quote unquote nightclub. It's more like a barn where teens are dancing, right?
Yeah. I
Like a
totally.
community hall,
Yep. 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 Yep.
low budget nightclub.
Yep.
And he's walking home and just disappears. That's the last people see of him. 10 months after his disappearance, in November of 1974, Geirfinnur Einarsson, same last name, different, no relation.
Oh.
They're just patronymic, so he's the son of Einar, right?
Okay. Got it.
I think Einarsson is like fucking Smith in Iceland.
I mean, it must be like if there's
Yeah.
two of them in this story alone. Like,
Yes. Yes. So Geirfinnur, he was an older guy. He's like in his 40s. He drove to a cafe and vanished. His son, he was actually 12-year-old son, was watching him and saw him get a phone call. And he kind of takes the phone call and it's like talks about something and then, okay, I gotta go, right? And then hops going to the cafe from there. Just clearly trying to meet someone, right?
and then he's just gone. He just doesn't exist
Yeah,
anymore.
exactly. He disappears, but his car was mysteriously found near that cafe with the key in the ignition.
Okay.
So two super mysterious disappearances.
Yes.
And when people disappear in Iceland at the time, and I imagine also now, it's almost always due to the very harsh climate, like a fucking and unpredictable climate. So like literally
Right.
a snowstorm could roll up and like just wipe you out, like whoops,
Yeah.
or you literally fall on ice or something. So this was big news because it's kind of there was indications of foul play, and there's no evidence, there's no leads, there's no clear suspects, and there's large searches of the area, and no bodies are found.
It's interesting that there's like foul play, but no proof of anything, and that almost alone is like why they think there's foul play, which is
Well,
like
yeah, it's
interesting.
suspicious because there's no indication it was a natural thing.
Right. 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 Right.
Yeah. And it really rocks this country, which is super, super, super safe. Like Iceland
Mhm.
is like the Netherlands, basically, where it's like breaking news: a bike, someone stole a bike. Like woo, woo, woo,
Right.
it's
Like,
like
oh
it's
my
so fucking safe.
god. Yeah.
Yeah. The police in 1975, boop, 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 fast forward a little bit with no
Mhm.
leads. The next year, police suddenly identify in the press a group of 6 suspects that they have. These are Savar, who we'll talk a lot about, Sivar Cielski. I have the hardest time with the Polish name.
Mm,
Cielski. Christian Bjorsen, Trygve Leifsen, Albert Skaftsen, and Gudjon Skarfedinsen, and Erla Boladottir. So we're going to talk the most about Sivar and Erla. here, but all of them are involved in very minor crime, like drug possession. It's the 70s, right? Like they're young, they're doing drugs.
Right.
In
And
their
they're
early
being, like,
20s.
vilified for it, like, heavily.
Yes.
Right.
The cops in the press immediately characterize this group as like thugs and criminals, but like I said, it's very casual charges, and these are basically hippies and young
Right.
kids who are vulnerable. But in the press, they're made out to be essentially like the Manson family, but they are not at all that. And the kind of Savar is meant characterized as like the group ringleader. The press really paints him as like a mix of like, say, a Damien Eccles meets Charles Manson. Like
Oh
that's exactly how
god.
he's painted.
Okay.
But he's just a like slightly troubled kid. Like he's fucking not a big deal.
Right. But this is
Um,
back when people are just like that morality thing is still like a big,
yes,
yeah.
yes. He's a slightly edgy like 20-year-old, and so they make a huge deal of it.
Right, 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 right.
Um, They question his girlfriend, Erla, with whom he actually had a baby daughter who was only a few months old.
Hmm.
And they held Erla for questioning for 30 days
What?
because she had actually been involved in some embezzling from her job at the telephone company. And
Oh.
this was like the craziest thing that she and Savar actually ever did. Was steal some money from her work. That was like the wildest shit they ever did.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
After some lengthy questioning, Erla, which I glossed over that, but we're going to come back to the lengthy questioning.
Okay.
But eventually, Erla tells them she had a nightmare of getting up in the night and seeing Savar and two men carrying a body. And they basically tell Erla to go back to her cell and remember because they think that dream was real.
Okay.
And so Erla, who's like at this point freaking out because she was isolated from her baby, which I can hardcore relate to,
Mm-hmm.
and she's super young and naive, starts thinking maybe it was real. She's also kept in solitary confinement. So she's going crazy, right?
And okay, like for context, I had a dream that a plane crashed like just outside my backyard last night. It was also PS like such a fucking amazing dream. It was so
That's
cinematic.
crazy.
But like it didn't
Yeah,
actually
wow.
happen. Like come on. Like when people
Yeah.
are holding you like when something is weighing heavily on your mind, you're going to start dreaming about it. It makes sense. Like it happens all the
Yes.
time.
Yes.
Like that's ridiculous.
Yes.
Okay, whatever.
But she's really naive and she's being manipulated psychologically. We'll get into it.
Right.
So they lie and tell her that they questioned Savar and he admitted to the whole thing. So eventually she goes in and,
Ugh.
admits to, she fingers the rest of this group, starting with Savar, for being involved in the murders. And after Erla's breaks, essentially, Savar, along with Christian, Triggy, and Albert, are all arrested and held for long periods of time, which I'm going to talk about that more in a second. But first, I'm going to say what they said. So in their confessions. So the confession center on the night in question when Guðmundur at first disappeared. They say they were all drinking at Savar's apartment, and they kind of circle back. And basically, none of their stories match. They're all fucking completely different.
Okay, but they all
Um,
confess?
yes.
Wow, that's so crazy.
After long periods of time.
Right,
Again,
right, right,
please keep
right.
that in mind. We're gonna circle back to how they all confess. But it's fucking wild that they all separately are broken by the brutality of what happens to
Yeah,
them.
we should have changed the name of this to, like, torture confessions.
Torture confessions. That's what this is. Spoiler
Yeah,
alert.
yeah,
So I have this. I'm doing this in a weird order. I'm going to tell you what they said, and then I'm going to tell you how they got that second.
okay.
Okay. But what they said is essentially, that they were partying and drinking with Guðmundur, and there's a fight with him and Savar, right? This evil ringleader,
Mhm.
and they kill him and they go dispose of his body in very disjointed different versions of that. They then, however, circle back to Erla because they want to also pin Geirfinnur's murder, or presumed murder, on
Mm.
this group. And so this connection is even more convoluted. Because remember, like, Gudmundur is like a young guy, like their age, right? Whereas
Right.
Geirfinnur is like this old dad. So
He's, like, an
it's
older
like he's
dude.
not going to be hanging out with them. Yeah.
Right, right.
Erla said, and this is completely convoluted and created by the police, spoiler alert. Erla eventually says that Geirfinnur was smuggling alcohol into Iceland. No evidence for that. And somehow this group of guys got a ride to Keflavik, this different kind of village, and
Mhm.
after they had a fight with Geirfinnur, who's an alcohol smuggler, on a boat, and they pushed him off the boat.
Damn, dude. Talk
So,
about it's like
yeah.
it's cinematic like my dream. Like
But in a stupid way.
in a really stupid way. Like that didn't happen. Like who believes that? Who believes that?
So after these stories get out, public hysteria is fueled because the case is now connected because of the alcohol smuggling bit that the cops put in there.
Mhm.
The case is now connected to a broader conspiracy theory that at the time that the Progressive Party and therefore their Minister of Justice, who is represented by of that party, he is implicated in smuggling. So that's a big like story at the time. Like people are theorizing that he does smuggling and this party does. So now the Minister of Justice is covering up these murders, right?
Oh my god.
Yeah. So in 1976, the group is actually released because of a lack of evidence, and in besides their confessions,
Right.
and in the years that follow, the Ministry of Justice starts getting a lot of pressure from the public to solve the case, and he calls together a task force led by a German detective, and this who's a really uncool dude.
Oh no.
Um, yeah, and this is when they bring in the sixth suspect, Guðmundur Skarfedinson, who they allege was the driver who gave them all a ride out to the boat docks in the Geirfinnur case.
Okay.
So they then get Mr. Gudjon to confess that he was the guy who gave him the ride, and based only on this statement, that they go out and rearrest all of the others again,
Mhm.
and yeah, and they basically get all the confessions then for Geirfinnur's case second.
Okay.
Um, so it's like a really convoluted, ridiculous thing. But the police become hyper focused on this group of six. Um,
Like all over
and
again.
yes.
Okay.
And by the way, the confessions for Geirfinnur's murder also don't match. Some of them say he was pushed off the boat. Some of them say they put him in the car, drove him away, and burned his body. Pretty different.
Yeah, that's not
Um,
close at all. That's like one's water, one's fire. It's basically opposite.
yeah. So here's
Right.
the heart of this case. Here's the wildest shit you've ever fucking heard. And here's why I decided to cover this. While these six are being questioned, they're kept in solitary confinement for some of the longest periods in known fucking history
Oh my god. What's up,
ever.
Iceland? Like, why are you like
Iceland,
this?
right? Like, yeah, it's just like seemingly peaceful, fucking progressive little Nordic country, but
It's the home
holy
of
shit.
Bjork.
It's a home of
I mean, she'll fucking wreck a photographer if they get too close to her, so I guess that's kind of like on par.
yeah.
I don't know, dude. The fuck?
Yeah. So
Oh,
the interrogations are lengthy and exceptionally cruel, and some of them involve being the six being drugged and being tortured, which I'll talk about.
wow, okay.
Some okay, so Sivar in particular, because he had ADHD, he was really broken down and affected by the interrogations and confinement.
Mhm.
He was actually in confinement for 741 days.
So before he was ever found or even charged with anything, he was in
Yes.
solitary confinement for like 2 years.
Yes.
That should not ever fucking happen.
Yes. Yes, and they kept him in his cell with his lights always on, and someone at night would like rattle shit onto his door so he couldn't sleep. His lawyer was almost never around when he was being interrogated. He was
Jesus
interrogated.
fucking
All these
Christ.
people were interrogated for figures like 340 hours total, like crazy amounts of interrogation. Sivar was also really afraid of water, and they found this out, so they actually water tortured him. They would just hold his head in a fucking like sink full of water and say they were going to drown him if he didn't confess.
What the fuck?
Yep,
Holy shit.
this poor kid. Like, uh, yeah. Trygve, one of the suspects here, he was kept awake for 24/7 with the lights on, and he actually had the longest solitary confinement outside of Guantanamo Bay detention camp. That is the that's the winner, and Trygve's number 2 here, just below that.
Oh my
Um,
god.
and the record, in case you're wondering, is 655 days solid
Fucking Lord,
in
dude.
solitary confinement. Sorry, I misspoke. Sivar was actually 615. So Trygve hasn't beat at 655 days.
Jesus
Um,
fucking Christ.
that's almost 2 years. Yeah.
Oh my god.
Erla, who did the initial confessing, was in solitary confinement for 242 days.
Mm-mm.
Um, and she's a mom of a baby.
How is
Just
any of this
fucked
legal?
up. Yeah. And they all said without question that they basically confessed to put an end to the confinement. And to their credit, they held out for a long ass time,
Yeah,
right?
they
Like,
really did.
but they all just got broken down and were being told like, well, you can go home, or we'll end this or whatever. Um,
I mean,
but
torture will
they all
do that.
basically, yeah, it works. I hate to say it, it
Yeah,
works.
it does.
Like when the Inquisition and shit would torture people to confessing, guess what? They confessed because they
Yeah,
didn't want to be tortured.
right, and then they fucking kill
It's
them or torture them more.
Yeah,
It's like, dude, what the
yes,
fuck?
yes,
Like,
yeah. No, the
ah,
point is sometimes like the torture.
yeah.
And they all basically went insane. They all started having serious mental health issues naturally. Several of the suspects attempted suicide while in custody. Um, and Gudjon Skarfedinson, who was the one who was confessed to being the driver, he had pre-existing mental health issues, and his wife was actually trying to get him psychiatric help, but he wouldn't go. So he had this pre-existing issue. And he was interviewed for 25 hours to start with. And he began to wonder, like question his memory essentially.
Well, yeah, if you are
And
awake for a full day, your brain's not, like, optimal at
yeah,
that point, you know?
yeah. And he was kept in this long period of solitary confinement as well. And his diary reveals that he was completely breaking down. He said in one diary entry that he didn't recognize his own name. He didn't know who he was anymore.
Jesus
So his
Christ.
and Trygve's diaries are actually, well, I'll get to that later, but like they're actually kind of a testimony to the exact effects of
Of the
solitary because they
torture,
were writing
yeah.
down, yeah, exactly how it was changing them and
It's like a
like
log
basically how,
of what it does.
yeah,
Yeah,
how you lose touch with reality,
yeah,
essentially. And this is not comparable whatsoever because it's I live in relative luxury compared to solitary confinement. But I kept saying when we had like the actual shelter in place days of COVID, remember that? Like
yes.
I kept saying I didn't leave my apartment for I don't know, probably at worst like a few weeks
Yeah,
actually.
yeah.
And I remember saying like I'm going insane. Like I feel like and I had internet and TV, all this shit, but
Mhm.
like I felt like I was literally losing my mind. So
Right.
like you can't even imagine if you're in a little iron box, like how
Getting
much
yelled
worse it
at.
would
The only
be.
interaction you
Yeah,
have is, like, somebody being like,
yeah,
"Confess!" Like, "Whoa, dude."
yeah. You don't have Netflix and snacks.
Yeah. God damn.
Um, so Gujon also said that he really trusted the investigators. He was someone who really clearly bootlicked for the cops going in. So when
Mhm.
they told him, "You don't remember this correctly," he was like, "Oh, I guess I don't."
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. At
Ugh.
trial, when the six go to trial here, the defense basically they all withdraw their confessions immediately as soon as they're free from solitary. But none
Right.
of them are, yeah. But the
Ugh.
suspects all at their trial say they're innocent and try to say the confessions were false, but no one
Mhm.
believes this. They're very much guilty in the court of public opinion. This smear campaign about them as these evil Manson kids has won.
Mhm.
Um, in 1980, the Icelandic Supreme Court finds them guilty. And
Seriously?
yeah, yeah, they're all, yeah. And I didn't write down. I have one omission here. I didn't write down all their respective sentences, but it is let's say under 20 years for all of them. It's Iceland, so their sentences are fucking chill as fuck.
Right,
Despite
considering what they
despite the
think.
draconian torture and like
Yeah.
everything, the sentencing is still very chill. So Erla gets 3 years, for example.
Oh my god.
I think the highest sentences must have been around like based off of because I do have when they were released. So based off of that, like it was
Mhm.
10 to 15 years sentences. Yeah,
Jesus.
yeah.
That's fucking
Um,
crazy.
In 1993, the European Committee for the Prevention of Torture actually criticized the long interrogations and argued that they were, in fact, torture.
Duh. I
Um,
mean, yeah.
yeah,
Fucking
yeah.
A.
And this is in no small part due to the campaigning of Sivar, who was actually released in the same year. And he right away like hits the ground running. Like he's determined to clear their names. Like this wasn't right.
So they're not
Even
okay,
though he gets out.
so they served their time. They served, like,
Serve the time. Yep.
long time. Like, that's a lo
Yeah, but
listen, 20 years? for something you didn't do that, like, there's
Yes.
no fucking reason to think that you did it is a
Yes.
long fucking time.
Yeah, but I think they all get out of prison around this time. Initially, Sevar, he starts a family and they all move to Colorado, and he does try his hand at like forgetting all of it, but he's like, nah, I have to clear my name no matter what. So he even has a brief kind of flirtation with like trying to put it past him, but he can't.
Right.
And his kids and his family just describe how this absolutely was all consuming for him. He was obsessed with it. He spent his whole kind of final decades of his life basically being committed to clear his name in Iceland. He went on TV giving interviews where he gives, impassioned speeches and, really um, articulate, interviews about how they're innocent, what happened, and how they were treated. He pushed and pushed for the case to be retried, and for them to all be acquitted. Again, just in name, just for the principle of it, not because
Yeah.
they would get any,
Yeah.
time off because they're all out. Um, but with everything, on the line, he appeals this conviction 3 different times, and each time the Supreme Court rejects him.
Okay.
And eventually, he is like, completely a street person, basically using alcohol and drugs. This completely breaks him. It
Oh,
turns him from like a
wow.
normal dude to like a debilitated,
So it just
crazy person. Like he
ruined
can't
his whole
handle it.
fucking life.
Yes. Yeah. In 2009, Trygve Leifson died. He also went on to start a family, but this also like broke him and ruined him like mentally.
Right, right.
Um, in 2011, Sivar Ciesielski died, tragically, so not seeing justice
Mhm.
at all. But after his death, his family, as well as Erla herself, originally from his ex girlfriend, they all pushed for the case to be reopened again. So the new wave, kind of in the wake of Sivar's death. And a journalist looking into the case is the one who kind of changes everything. This high profile journalist in Iceland. And she actually
Mhm.
meets up with Trygve's family, his widow, and she gets her hands on his diary from the
Mm.
14 months he spent in
Oh
isolation.
my god.
Yeah. And
That's
it's
yeah.
it's wild. Yeah. And she thinks, okay, I'm going to run a fucking story on this, like a big high profile story. She brings in experts on false confessions. She goes through and gets all the kind of stories and the diaries from these various dudes. And the news story is huge. In 2011, right not that long after Sivar dies and the story is run, she slaps it together pretty fast. And then the country's Minister of the Interior announces they're going to launch an investigation into the techniques used in the interrogation of the 6 suspects. And it's like cool, but also like it's a little bitchy that he had to die. Give a
Right.
shit. I'm
Right.
like, God damn, like this
I love that you
poor
call it
guy.
a little bitchy. It's a
It's a
little
little rude.
bitchy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They
Oh.
then yeah. So obviously they find what we're all just been talking about. These are obviously super fucking coerced.
Yeah.
And interestingly, they find that these confessions are kind of the case textbook perfect example of MDS, which is memory distrust syndrome.
Mhm.
And this is a specific type, I think, of false confession that we might even talk about later in the week, where someone actually might have a span of time which they don't have a secure memory established for that time. And so a false memory is inserted. And so they actually start
Oh.
questioning their own memory. And for the Gudmundur case, these kids were all drinking. And so they are kind of having foggy memory to begin with. And the cops are like, are you sure you didn't do X, Y, and Z? Right?
Right, and so
So if you have foggy memory to begin with, maybe you did do it.
right, I mean, people
Yeah.
definitely, they black out, they don't
Yeah.
remember, like,
Yeah.
I've convinced people they've done all sorts of shit because 'cause I'm always the sober one, you know what I mean? It's really, really easy to convince people they did
Yeah.
real fucking stupid shit.
Oh,
If
yeah.
you were drinking, they're like, "Well,
Yeah.
maybe I did, I don't really remember." Like,
Exactly.
yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah. But I think that's yeah, you can also just make people question their memory, period, when they
Yeah,
have them in solitary and they're being tortured.
yeah, fair, yeah.
Um so the committee basically cracks open the case files. They find all these staggering statistics and things I've already gone over, and the prison diaries, blah 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 blah.
Mhm.
They also realized that there were tons more interrogations based off of the diaries versus what was officially recorded. So they were recording like 1 out of 8
So they were just
officially.
being really fucking shady and illegal
Yes.
and torturous
Yes.
pieces of trash. Can I just skip ahead here? They don't get in trouble for this at all, right? Like,
I don't think so. No.
nice. Okay.
No. But the cases were officially reopened after 2011 so that a very unusual kind of trial can be staged in which both the prosecution and defense, like I guess they both have to exist, but they're both calling for an acquittal. So it's essentially a big formality to get the acquittal.
Okay.
But all the evidence of their terrible treatment and the evidence of why their confessions were coerced is all just like aired out, just for the official record.
Okay.
In 2018, the group is officially found not guilty 44 years after their initial conviction.
Wow.
All their convictions are vacated. Yeah.
But
20
like
fucking
half of them
18.
aren't alive, right? Like
Yeah. 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 It's fucked up.
that is fucked up.
And although the not guilty verdict was kind of described by a lot of places as the conclusion to this case, I do think it's
Mhm.
also a bummer that there's still no fucking clue what happened to Guðmundur and Geirfinnur.
Right, it's just
Not a
like
fucking clue.
completely like it's like completely secondary. Like they're not even
Yes.
really trying to
But
figure
there's
it
lots
out.
of
Like
cases like this with the Memphis, what the fuck? What am I?
the
What's
Memphis
the what?
3.
Yeah, the Memphis 3 or whatever. It's like that. Like whatever happened to those kids is completely under the rug. Like
Well,
it's
what's
completely sidelined.
interesting is that there's like evidence out there for that case. The West Memphis
Mhm.
3. There's evidence out there that they just need to
Yes.
like test and then they'll probably know who
Right?
did it and they're just not doing it because whoever the pieces of shit in charge are, they like don't want to
Yeah.
admit they're wrong, which is weird. And it's like, don't you
Yeah.
actually care about like the truth or justice? We all know the answer is no, but like,
No. Yeah. So
fucking
I did see in
crazy.
2019 a news story about the tip that was being investigated. So apparently the cases are actually being investigated. At least they're not
Okay.
completely dead. And this
Well,
tip was
late, but
related to the murder of, I believe, Geirfinnur. Oh no, sorry, I think Guðmundur, and it was someone who said they were in the car when the driver hit and killed him in like a hit and run, and then they
oh
put him in the car, and then they dropped her off. But so presumably, she's saying that this person she knows hit him and kind of covered it up by going and hiding the body. Hit him and
got
killed him in the
it.
car.
Okay.
So that's a tip. Who knows what?
Okay.
I didn't see any follow up to that.
I wonder.
Um, yeah, who knows? That's that for those cases. Fast forward to 2020, a total of 815 million kroner, which I believe I didn't write down what that comes to in dollars. It's less.
Mhm.
It's less. Was paid in compensation to five of the victims, five male victims, because by the way, their cases were reopened for that trial that I just
Okay.
mentioned for
Yeah.
the acquittals, but Erla wasn't included and she was not acquitted.
Why?
Fast forward,
Oh my
I'm not
god.
sure why she was left out, but in 2022 is when Erla finally got her fucking day in court. Her shit was finally overturned. I'm not sure why. There was like 4 years of separation there.
It's so fucked
Um,
up because also like where was their kid? You know? It's like this
yeah,
impacts so
it's
many
fucked up.
people.
Yeah,
Ugh.
she was only in prison for 3 years, but still, when you have a little kid, that sucks.
Yeah. Mhm.
Still sucks.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, and in the documentary, she talks about like being reunited with her daughter and all this shit, and like it's still really hard. And like, what broke my heart too is like, as a mom of a baby, when she's going in there to be questioned, and they told her like, we're gonna keep you like indefinitely, like, or and she's like, she had a 3 month old, like, you know what I
Right.
mean? Like, can you imagine your
Nope.
heart sinking? Like,
I would
that's
no.
horrifying.
Yes.
Um,
Man, kind of fuck Iceland a little bit, huh?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, in 2022, she finally got her, settlement and her fucking day in court. But yeah, so anyway, it's just really interesting. The whole MDS and memory distrust syndrome, I guess, is like this is used to literally talk about that case in like psychology classes and like
Yeah.
criminology classes because the diaries in this case is like the number one example of that phenomena. But yeah,
Yeah.
that's the case. Sorry if I talked forever, but if
No,
you
it's
want to know
really
more
interesting.
in really in depth, the
Mhm.
Netflix documentary is called Out of Thin Air.
Okay.
It came out in 2017, and it's really, really good. And it goes into obviously many hours more detail than I did. So
Yeah. Shit, dude.
yeah, Iceland, right?
Ooh. Yeah.
And
Um,
their prisons are like fucking like vacation resorts, kind of.
mhm.
It's that kind of country. So yeah, this really shocked me.
Yeah, that's real
Yeah,
honestly, it's really fucking surprising that, like, that's what
yeah,
they did. Like It
Yeah,
kind of blows my mind, to be honest.
it is.
Uh,
It's weird.
fuck, dude. Okay. All I have to say about that. That's really like honestly, it's really fucking infuriating. Like,
It is, and you'll feel like really bad for those kids watching it because they're just like, slightly I don't know, like Black Sabbath, Led Zeppelin, like cute, edgy 70s kids, like they had totally had
and they
were
just had
totally
their
innocent.
lives ruined for that. Ugh. I'd be
Yeah,
more upset if
just
it was
tortured.
America, but like it's just far enough removed, like timeline wise and
Yeah,
country wise, and I'm like,
it's
God
fucked up.
damn. Oof. Okay. All right. I'm just gonna jump into mine. Mine is not as infuriating, but it is an interesting case. So this is the story of Alvin Latham. He is a
Mhm.
deckhand in this story. He normally worked at a grocery store. He was like a stalker. He stocked groceries, kind of overnight shift. And he really loved fishing. He wanted to make a little extra money, so he becomes a deckhand. Now, this story takes place in July of 2000 in New Orleans, Louisiana. And our dear friend Alvin here is 46 at the time. So he becomes a deckhand and he goes out fishing with a captain Raymond Liker, whose nickname was cutest nickname for a burly fisherman, Tinky. Tinky. Like stinky without the
Oh,
S.
Tinky? That's
Tinky.
really cute.
Very cute.
Yes.
So they go out, and again, it's July, and they're out on the water, and apparently a storm just like rolls it. So you know how you said like the weather in Iceland can just like turn on a dime? Same thing here.
Yeah.
There were a ton of boats out fishing, and all of a sudden they start getting calls like, hey, come in. There's a huge storm coming in. Bring your boats in, get to safety. Alvin and Tinky did not get either didn't get this message or didn't have time. Not really sure what happened, but they get stuck out in the water and nobody can reach them. So they go out after the storm passes looking for the boat, looking for Tinky, looking for Alvin. And 14 hours after their ship went down, Alvin is found floating in the water, like on like a piece of wood, essentially. Like not,
Oh my gosh.
yeah, not doing great, but he's alive. So they bring him in, they fix him up, and they're like, what happened? He says that he and Tinky were out on the boat, he says he didn't know that there was any sort of like call about, a storm, and they just got hit. They got like blindsided. So they're trying to, you know, batten the hatches. I don't know. I'm making shit up because I think that's a thing
Yeah,
you say for shipping. But essentially,
definitely.
they're trying to keep their shit together and not go overboard or sink, during this insane storm.
Yeah.
So they're trying to get like onto like a safety boat or something. What are they called? Like a dinghy?
Yeah.
Because the boat does start to go down. Something they either hit something or the boat, the water is so strong it breaks the boat. So they're trying to get to safety, and Raymond, Tinky here, gets caught in a fishing net. And Alvin is attempting to free him, and Tinky says to him, "There's no way. Like, I'm done. I'm going down with this boat. Save yourself. Get on the life raft, get to safety." So Alvin does as he's told, and he leaves. He leaves Raymond, and he tries to save him, but he can't. So at first Alvin is seen not so much as like a hero, but as like a victim who
Yeah.
tried to save his captain.
He did his best.
He
Yeah.
did his best. So he's like a good guy. Everybody's so happy that he was safe and mourning Raymond's death. Tinky here, Raymond was found 4 days later, and his body told a very different story than what Alvin had said. A medical examiner looked at Tinky and said, this man has suffered severe head trauma. He has multiple stab wounds on one of his arms that look defensive in nature.
Mm.
I think this man was murdered. I don't believe he went
Okay.
down with the ship.
Okay.
So the police pull Alvin in. And I will remind you that there were two men on this boat. Alvin and Tinky, and that's it. There's nobody else. So he either murdered him or he didn't. There's no like third
Yeah.
man. There's no, twist ending here. He either did it or he didn't, and we all know what this topic is. So we're gonna get into it.
Okay.
Alvin was then uh brought in by police and questioned. And they questioned him hard. And oh, hello, cat. Um,
She has feelings about false confessions
yeah,
interrogations.
right when I said they questioned him hard, she went, "Meow." Yes, yes, girl. Oh, she's so toot. So I watched the forensic files on this, and you could tell even now when they're interviewing, well, not now because the case, the forensic files is old, but even after
Yeah.
all of this transpired, when they're interviewing these guys, they are like not this is what drives me so crazy about like prosecutors and police. It's like you have been proven wrong. It is time to give up. It is time to stop stating your case and trying to argue for why you're not wrong. You're fucking wrong. Like, get over it.
Yeah.
But you can tell even when they're talking to them that these guys are still like not fully convinced that what they did was wrong or that they're in the wrong. So
Classic.
I
Yeah.
know because they're too fucking stupid. So anyway,
Mm,
day one, they interrogate Alvin for 5 hours. The next day, they interrogate him for 3. And they are coming in hot. They're coming in
mhm.
hot. They're like, "Why'd you kill him? You killed him. Tell us why you did it." Just hammering him, hammering him, hammering him. Finally, his story starts to change. They kind of feed him a story, and he starts feeding it back to them that he thought Raymond Tinky, I mean, the nickname Tinky, he thought he might be gay. And he was uncomfortable around him because of that. So there's this like gay
Little gay panic
fear, gay
thing.
panic
Yeah.
thing. Yes.
Okay.
He then said, just taking a left turn away from that narrative, that there was only one life jacket on the boat. So when the boat started to go down, he decided that he wanted it. So
Mhm.
they were like, "So you stabbed him in the arm," which is like, "What? Why would he stab him in the arm?" 5 times and then hit him over the head with a pipe.
Just
And
casual arm stabs. That's where you do
yeah,
that.
yeah. And Alvin's like, "Yes, that's what happened. That's what I did." So they
Yeah,
arrest
that's
him.
it.
Yep, and they charge him with murder. And the cops are just fucking they're so pleased with themselves. They another good job, guys. Case closed. Now, Alvin, pretty much immediately once he's not being screamed at and yelled at and told he did this, of course, recants his confession. And he says,
Mhm.
"I didn't fucking do this." He gets a court appointed lawyer because this man does not have a lot of money. Like I said, he stocks, stocks the shelves at a grocery store and works part time as a deckhand. He's not rolling in dough. So he
No.
gets a court appointed lawyer. I can speak. This
Point
guy
accorded.
court appointed. Uh, he is such a badass. This guy's name is Peter Barbie. I fucking love this guy. I wanna be his friend. I have considered writing him fan mail. I think at this point he's probably up there in age, but I really want people to know how cool he is. And in Forensic Files fashion, they were like, "We want you to know how cool he is." So
Mhm.
they showed him riding his motorcycle without a helmet. They're like, "This guy's really cool." But despite their accidental besmirching of this man by trying to present him as cool and just being so stupid they don't know how to do it, I wanna say this guy's awesome. So anyway, Peter meets Alvin and immediately he's like, "This guy's fucking innocent and I'm gonna prove it." So first thing he has to do is he has to deal with his false confession. So he shows the taped confession to a forensic psychologist. And a forensic psychologist basically this is what they deal with. They look at
Mhm.
psychology as it relates to crimes. So a lot of the stuff that they look at is like profiling. They also definitely look at confessions to determine what's true, what's not true, kind of what's going on. So this forensic psychologist straight up said she was annoyed by the tapes. And the reason that
Mm.
she said she was annoyed is because Alvin was clearly not a very intelligent man. Now,
Yeah.
they said his IQ, which we all know IQ is garbage, right?
Right, right.
But if there was a person that it might work for, it would be a white man. That's what Alvin is. Um,
Mhm.
so she says, he's clearly being taken advantage of by these cops. Other doctors agree. They all come in and say the same thing. They're pissed at these cops. They say his IQ is about 74, which is the point at which most people are given like assistance for living their
Okay.
lives. Like they have
Right.
trouble caring for themselves fully as independent adults. And Alvin's out here
It's on that
working.
border.
Yeah,
Yeah.
he's working 2 jobs, he's living his life. So they During these tapes, they point out they intimidated him. He denied having anything to do with killing Tinky over 100 times, but they
Mm.
never stopped repeating it. They got loud, they got threatening. They told him he's not allowed to leave until he tells them what they want to hear. And at this point, he starts repeating what they said. Now, some of the interesting things that happened were, well, we'll get there. So next, he has to deal with the medical examiner's terrible report. So he found another expert to testify that the body was not stabbed and was not hit with a pipe. And to go back to the confession, this is where I was going to bring this up. Alvin first said that he hit Tinky with a 2x4. They were like, there wasn't a 2x4 on the boat. And he's like, a hammer? And they're like, try again. And he's like, a pipe? And they're like, yeah, there you go. Yep, that's what it was. And then the cops are like, that'll do. That dog will hunt. Like, that's the
Don't you
confession
love
we're
the,
going
like,
for.
Clue like, the board game Clue version? They always do for false confessions of, like, "Name any implement." Another one.
Yeah.
Try
Nope.
another
Try
one.
again. Try again. Oh, there it is. You knew what
Oh,
you did. Like, what?
stupid.
He
Yeah.
also separately, I think I forgot to mention this, so I'm just gonna put it in here. Um, Alvin saying that he wanted the one life jacket. Can you guess what he wasn't wearing when they found him?
Mm.
A life
Just
jacket.
took that off? Yeah.
Yeah, so he killed a man over it, and then I don't want it. Never mind. Like, no,
Yeah,
come on,
yeah.
come on. So anyway, this other expert came forward and said it was far more likely that Tinky's body was struck by a propeller while floating in the water, and that the cuts on his arm, along with the head trauma, were consistent with someone being run over by a boat. Now,
Okay.
I hate to know this, but multiple fishermen have seen bodies run over in the water, which, like, I hate that that's, like, a commonplace thing, and all of them said that's exactly what the body looks like after somebody runs it over.
Mhm.
It cuts
It
to the
gets some
arm.
damage.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's totally consistent with how Tinky's body looked.
Mm, interesting.
Now, at his trial, all of this information was shown to the jury, and to really top things off, after Alvin took the stand and repeated his original story, Peter Barbie also chose to show the jury the entire 8 hours of Alvin's interrogation. And that really sealed the deal. And he was found
Mm.
not guilty after only 6
Oh my
hours of
gosh.
jury deliberation.
Amazing. Yeah, that's not how a lot of these cases are gonna go this week,
No,
so
no.
wow.
So this poor man, he later said, "My heart is exploding." He was
Well,
so happy to be found not guilty and to be vindicated because he knew that he hadn't hurt this man. And this man had a family. And he was like, he even said about the family, "I'm sorry for their loss. And I just hope they don't hate me for the rest of their lives." Because I think a lot of Tinky's family believed the narrative that they were given by the cops that he had murdered this man. Are you
yeah,
fucking
I was gonna say I
kidding me?
hope that they came around and realized the truth.
I don't know that they did. I hope so too. I always
Yeah.
like, you know, um, the Heyman Lee case with Adnan Syed. It's like
Mhm.
that family wanted his murder conviction reinstated just so that they would like feel
Ugh,
better. And part of me is like,
yeah,
I don't I
it's
don't
rough.
care how you feel. Like the truth is the truth. And with something like that, you're not allowed to ruin somebody else's life just so because you can't come to grips with like the reality. So anyway, hopefully this family, like, got over it.
Yeah.
At the time, they were just like, "We don't wanna deal with this." Whatever. Anyway, so the main cop who led the interrogation still, at the time of the interview, stood by his shitty way of doing things, and why wouldn't he? It's very on par, for cops.
Yeah.
But this amazing lawyer, Peter Barbie, the guy who rides his motorcycle without a helmet and is just like a tough, cool guy. He really is, though. I love him. He says in the interview with Forensic Files, he's like, it really, really pissed me off that they're picking on this guy. They're picking on this poor man, Alvin, who did nothing wrong. And he's like, he says to the cop, if you want to pick on poor Alvin, you should try to come pick on me and see what happens. He said, "You can print that." And I fucking love that. And then he says, "That cop is a
That's so
bully
cool.
and a punk." And I was like, "Yeah, he is. Yes, he is."
I love that he added punk.
I
That's great.
know it's so
Yeah,
accurate though, because like,
that's perfect.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that was how they ended the fucking show on Forensic Files. And I was like, somebody on
I love
Forensic
that.
Files is like down. Like somebody there is like a cool ass person who's
It's a
like,
great show.
low key like ACAB, and I like really love
Mhm.
that they like had their moment there. Like,
Best thing to do in a hotel, watch Forensic Files. That's
yeah,
what I
oh my
do.
god.
Yeah.
Ollie always makes me watch Ridiculousness, that show on MTV, but if he's asleep or whatever,
Mm.
it's all about Forensic Files. So,
So it's always
but
on
anyway,
at all
yeah,
times.
I know. I love it. It's like there's like a Forensic Files fucking channel. I have it on here too on my
Yes.
TV. It's the best. Wake up at 4 in the morning, be like, I remember this one, like pass back out. It's fantastic.
Mhm.
But anyway, so mine was pretty short to kind of offset your longer
Yeah,
one.
my Icelandic saga.
Dude, yours was amazing. Like it was great. Mine was short,
Thanks.
but like entertaining, I think. So, you know, we even
Oh,
each other out.
very good. The things you can accomplish with a baby on you. So,
Yeah, yeah,
look at that.
yeah. Very good.
Good.
All right, guys. So that's part one. Sorry again about last week.
Mhm.
We'll be back shortly with part two. We're back
Mhm.
in our groove. I'm lying. I'm gonna probably cry in the next couple days trying to find time to record, but we'll get there. Thanks everybody for your support. We did get a couple of requests for cases, so we got to look through our
Yeah,
emails and get those going. Thanks everybody for
definitely.
sending those in.
Mhm.
Anything else we want to talk about?
That's it. Good night. Good night, Cindy. I'm gonna go to sleep.
Yeah, I can't wait to pass out. Also, I just want to say that like all week I think of all these things I want to talk about when we record, and then the time comes, I'm like, I got nothing.
Forget.
It's like when somebody asks you what your favorite band is, and you're like, I don't listen to
Yeah.
music. Like you just can't think of anything. So I'll spare everybody another 20 minutes of talking. All right, guys, thanks again for listening. Please like, rate, review, share with your friends and family. And until the next half of this infuriating but interesting topic,
Mhm. Stay.
off our
This.
yes.
Awesome. Bye.
Bye.